kwake kuna askari wanamchunga.
Vizuri tena zaidi. Guys, don't try to swipe up this video. Hii ndio imekuwa ombi langu kabisa watu wangu, kwamba wana opposition wasikubalie Rais William Ruto kuwatawanyisha ama kuwagawanyisha. Unaona, iwapo William Ruto atafaulu kugawanyisha wana opposition, then automatic 2027 William Ruto angefaulu kurejea mamlakani tena. Na venye tunaongea, siasa imeshika moto, na kumbe Rigathi Gachagua, Fred Okengo Matiang'i, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, George Natembeya, Martha Karua na wengine wote wa upande wa opposition wameamua kuja pamoja na wameketi, wameamua they are now going to produce one person. Na imekuwa vizuri tena zaidi. And guys, nilikuwa nakwambia, iwapo wana opposition wataamua ku-release ama ku-announce their flag bearer candidate, William Ruto ataanza humiliations mapema. And that's why kwa hii video Rigathi Gachagua is telling us hawawezi ku-announce their flag bearer wa 2027 from opposition team. Imekuwa vizuri tena zaidi. Hapo nyuma guys, nilikuja nikakwambia kama Rigathi Gachagua ameanza branding Fred Okengo Matiang'i kama project ya William Ruto, then automatic hiyo itakuwa one way ya William Ruto to be the president of the Republic of Kenya again from 2027. Na maombi na matumaini yangu yamekuja kutimia. Kumbe kila mtu saizi anafanya kitu inaitwa consolidation. Rigathi Gachagua ana consolidate mountain. Fred Okengo Matiang'i ako upande wa Gusii na Nyanza. Then Natembeya and Eugene Wamalwa wako upande wa Western consolidating. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka ako upande wa Ukambani. Rigathi Gachagua ako Mlima Kenya. Na mambo yanaenda kuchemuka na kwambia. Na usisahau Rigathi Gachagua ametuma Edwin Sifuna kuongea na Oburu Oginga, pia aanze kufanya consolidations upande wa Nyanza region ili waje pamoja. So unajua nilikwambia nini? Kila mtu ako na intention ya kupeleka William Ruto nyumbani. And don't try to swipe up this video and show me like. Na nasema thanks for your great support. Nyinyi ni watu wa nguvu zaidi. Asanteni kusimama na hii platform. Haikuangi rahisi watu wangu. Nyinyi mmesimama na hii platform usiku na mchana. So lazima nikuambie kongole. So guys, wale wageni ensure mnajiunga na sisi kwa kubonyeza alama ya subscription ili tuwe familia kubwa tena zaidi. And guys, tumefika 9,000 Kenyan shillings. Hiyo ndio balance yetu ya kununua microphone. Saizi tukipata hizo, then in the next few days tutakuwa na professional microphone. So wale ambao wanaendelea kutupatia mchango wao, nasema asanteni, endelea kupokea. Tulikuwa tumelemewa na 11,000 but saizi imefika 9,000 Kenyan shillings. Asanteni kwa wote ambao wanaendelea kutuma. Na pia ungependa kujiunga na wao, tumia namba ambayo inajaribu kudisplay hapo chini ili uweze kusupport hii platform. Now guys, nataka usikize vizuri tena zaidi. Na ndio ukuje kurealize William Ruto alijikosea impeaching Rigathi Gachagua. Ile game opposition inachezea Rais William Ruto hawezi faulu. Unajua kuna baadhi ya watu wanasema kwamba ni nani anaweza tingiza William Ruto? Let me tell you, kwa taarifa yako, huyu jamani one term. Sikiza hii kwanza.
That Rigathi Gachagua is consolidating his support base. Kalonzo Musyoka is consolidating his support base. I mean, Eugene Wamalwa is consolidating his support base. Fred Matiang'i is consolidating his support base. George Natembeya is consolidating his support base. Martha Karua is consolidating her support base. And all these bases are agreed that Ruto is going to be a one-term president. So when they finally come together and now come up with one presidential candidate to represent all these bases it should not be a problem. Everybody will embrace the united opposition's, flag bearer. So for now, what is important is that everybody consolidates their base against William Ruto.
So this is politics as usual.
Of course, yes.
You're just saying this is nothing unusual. This is what has happened in the past. So again, just before we played those, it comes back to that public trust deficit, Senator, when it comes to people's views on the political agenda for 2026. What's your quick reaction to the reality of what Kenyans are dealing with vis-a-vis what leadership perhaps is missing? You know, they don't feel like they're being heard by leadership. You're in leadership, so what's your reaction to what Kenyans are saying?
Thank you. And it's important for me to make the observation and to say that from the few Kenyans that you have actually featured there, I've not heard any of them, telling us that they're satisfied with how government is being run. And I think as a response to your question, Janet, I think it's important that we say, because we hear President Ruto saying every day, every time, Mariam, that we don't have any plan. We have very many plans, but then we are not able to implement them because, of course, we are not running government. By running government, we mean that, when you are running government, you are the one that is managing public resources. You are the one that has been entrusted with, doing what a government should do. So, I hear President Ruto every day. I heard him even as late as yesterday saying that we should say what we are doing in construction, about roads, about cost of living. And I think that is a big joke. What can I do? In opposition.
You're a senator, you can legislate.
Yes, I can legislate, yes. But at the end of the day, I'm not the one that is going to implement this. And how do you legislate again, Mariam? You know that for you to make in law in a law in parliament, it would have to be subjected to a vote.
Yeah.
And of course, it is not me inventing it here or bringing it here that President Ruto has control of both houses of parliament. And so any legislation that is not pleased with, of course, will not see the light of day. And if it does, of course, it will be voted out by his forces in parliament. But what we are saying is we have many ideas and we know what Kenyans need. We know that Kenyans need a good health care system. We know that Kenyans want education fixed. Because, we're just doing some knee-jerk reactions, for example, to education, and taking Kenyans for granted. I heard the CS Education last Saturday say that, of course, capitation remains what it was. But the former PS, Bedu Kipsak, told us that they had reduced it from 22,000 to 16,000. So when now, Migos Ogamba tells you it will be, it will remain at what it was. So what is it? Is it 22,000 or 16,000? We don't want this confusion. So we know that we need to sort out education. Right. We know we need to sort out, health. We know that we need to bring down the cost of living. And there are many things that can be done to reduce the cost of living. If you had time, we would, enumerate all of them.
Right. We'll get into that in a little bit, just that outlook, right?
Yes.
Of what 2026 looks like and what a 2027 victory for the united opposition looks like in terms of economy and all these other things. But just before that, I wanted to know when the tide changed for you specifically. For you to say, you are firmly in the united opposition, when did that change happen for Senator Nyotu?
For me to now be like decamping from government to the opposition.
You're still a member of UDA?
Yes, I'm still a member of UDA, and I will remain there till, I decide to leave. I normally say, every time that question comes to me, I normally refer people to the book that Gugu Adiongo wrote, I will marry when I want. And so I normally say, I'll leave UDA when I want. Because I normally also say that William Ruto has no moral authority to tell anybody to leave UDA, because, of course, he differed with Uhuru Kenyatta in 2018. Everybody asked him to leave if he was not agreeable with government, and he didn't. So he has no moral authority to ask anybody to leave. But to answer your question, when did change from Saul to Paul. Even, I mean, that is a question that I would answer in this manner. That anytime, a bride is saying yes to a groom, of course, they are hoping that the future will be bright. And of course, normally they will not have had time to live together. So there's a lot that you do not know about your partner until you get to live together. And now you get to understand exactly what type of a person it is, whether what they promised you in order for you to get into the box, in quotes, or whether it is something that they still hold. But you realize that sometimes maybe your priorities, his priorities, or our priorities are so different from yours that you are incompatible. So when we got into government, and everybody knows that William Ruto's campaign was, he made very many promises, and his language was very sweet, and this is why he was able to dupe even the church. He was that very promising groom.
Suitor.
Suitor, yes. Suitor is a better word. That very promising suitor. But when we got into government, we realized that his priorities were so different from what we thought they were. Because we thought we were going to government to sort out the problems that Kenyans had. And the bottom-up approach was, for me, especially because of where I come from, where our people, are known for doing small businesses, hawkers, small-scale farmers, border riders, those small-scale.
So it appealed to you.
It was very appealing because, of course, I may be senator today. Maybe I had a job even before I became senator, but I have brothers, I have sisters who have no jobs or who are doing those small businesses. And I thought this was a great opportunity to transform the country. The Hustlers Fund was a big promise, and we thought that now, that is what he used to say, that now, Fuliza and what have you was going to be a thing of the past. Yeah. But when we got into government, we found
it was different. Senator, hold that thought. We need to go into a break. First of all, the metaphor for preparing for marriage, I'm not going to unhear that. It's actually... So what happened to the marriage counseling? You should have been there.
It's a dance.
It's a dance. We have Senator from Murang'a County, John Yutu, who is in studio talking about the 2026 political agenda. It's coming up to 7:30. We'll continue that conversation in just a moment. Kabisa, we're just coming back to the conversation. There's a few... let's do these as quick fire for Senator Nyuto, like really quick, because Mariam will take us through some of the other conversations we'll be having in a moment. But Don Sabwa is asking, Janet, ask our guest, as they consolidate their bases, what are they doing so that they do not antagonize themselves, hence leaving citizens suffering, right? That's a quick one. The other one, Charles Ndungo says, Senator Nyuto, Ruto's history was there for all to see and make informed decisions. He says, you chose to blind yourself to that fact. It was no secret that he had been mentioned in scandals. You'll respond to that. The final one, ask Senator if they would support a referendum question on election day or if a referendum is altogether needed. Very quickly, Senator, as we continue to move the conversation forward. So Don Sabo was asking, as you consolidate bases, what are you doing so that you don't antagonize yourselves? You may have spoken briefly to that. You're just saying, it's playing out as planned. So the other one is, you saw it there. President Ruto, his CV was in plain sight for people to see.
And you made the choice.
Your quick response to that, Senator.
Thank you very much. And the first viewer has said that we should take care that as we consolidate, we do not antagonize one another. And we are very careful not to do that. And that's why we... don't want anybody talking about, the flag bearer now, because that can be antagonistic. It's still early until people have been able to talk and have come up with an agreement. that is the other thing that maybe I had forgotten to say, that if you do it early, you could start antagonizing others. It has to be done in a way that is exhaustive, so that by the time you're announcing your flag bearer, everybody has bought into it, and will not be antagonized. Because, of course, William Ruto would want us to antagonize one another, because it can only benefit him and not anybody else. For my brother Ndongo, who says that Ruto's history was there for everybody to see, I want to tell him that we thought this person had reformed. And we know that's why these days, actually, we do not call our prisons. We call them corrective facilities because we believe that anybody and everybody can be corrected and they can reform. Because this person, of course, yes, I agree with Mr. Ndungo that of course the history was there, but the way he presented himself, even crying in church, and I don't believe that those tears were genuine tears. I believe they were crocodile tears that time, including crying in church. And of course, being Christians, we know Saul, who was persecuting Christians and became the greatest of all time, did a lot of work when he became Paul. We thought this was a Saul turned Paul, but we didn't know that he just wore a robe. A robe that made him look like Paul, but he was still the Saul. Okay. In fact, I was Saul.
Can I just ask the straightforward question?
Yes.
Was it just political expediency? At the time, aligning with UDA and President William Ruto was the right political decision. And now you feel that the tide is changing and you don't want, when people say Fagia, you don't want to be caught there in the dust being Fagiwat.
No, Mariam. I had told you, it was actually, I was convinced. I think I had said that earlier. I was convinced as junior that this person was going to bring reform and change and, bring a solution to the long-lasting problem that we have had of, small business people, jobless youths, and that I was convinced. Okay. So it is not about political expediency. It's about a person who turned against what everybody thought they were. Okay. And somebody who is so to say, very difficult to even analyze, because even that character, where you can even throw out everybody and anybody that assisted you to rise in power. That is not a character that you can even be able to describe properly.
And that you want to support. The one for referendum, I think we'll come to it later when you talk about 2026. But Mariam.
So just because of time, we'll go through this. So there's one last question actually from a fixer, Game Changer on Twitter, saying, my question to Senator Nyotu, considering that him and other UDA and Kenya Kwanza elected leaders settled to work with Ruto, what makes him sure they will not be lured again to work with Ruto when or if Ruto puts an effort to make things work in the final months to 2027 elections?
Now, that's a very interesting question and a good one for that matter. But William Ruto can now only lure those who have not experienced him. And that is why he's zeroing in with our brothers and sisters from the Luo nation. And in fact, we are telling them that this person, is a very sly person. This somebody who will come and learn everything that you do, including your language, and you start feeling like he's part of you. In fact, Gachagua said on Saturday, which is true, that now he's now behaving in a way. I saw him being promoted as a Luo elder the other day, and he can now speak some Luo, actually, some salams and what have you, and he was even seen making cooking some fish. And Rigathi Gachagua on Saturday said, and it is true, that he actually had come to our place and knew our songs, our roads, and he was actually even able to make a mutura. That is, somebody. So
again,
we are saying we cannot fall to him, like I had given, like the metaphor that I had been given of a suitor.
Yes.
I mean, once they have tried actually to knife you, and by God's grace you escape. Of course, you cannot allow yourself to get back to the same. To the same house with such a person. Yeah.
All right, let's get into other things now. Let me begin with Geoffrey Ruto, Cabinet Secretary, talking about the leadership of Mount Kenya, what it looks like, and this Rigiji and DP Kindiki dynamic, so to call it. Let's listen in to CS Ruto.
You have to stop belittling the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Na kama hiyo ndio utaendelea nayo, sisi tunakuelezea namna hiyo. We are not going to define the Mount Kenya socially. People of Mount Kenya will remain together socially. But politically, utaona vile utaona.
Aya, just react to that clip, number one. And number two, you've also spoken about the Mbeere North by-elections and what you witnessed there. Geoffrey Ruto was quite active on the ground. Let us know what exactly you saw happen there and why you think the opposition didn't lose in Mbeere North. But begin with reacting to this clip.
Thank you. Geoffrey Ruto, before he became CS, is one person that I was able to meet in many media stations. And he's not somebody who could be able to make a reasonable debate. I mean, he's only, and I'm not attacking his character or his person, but his only thing was to praise William Ruto and his government, even when he had no good reasons that he could put on the table. And so I'm not surprised by what he says. And Geoffrey Ruto is a bully. I mean, and that is a character that, of course, we know he is. You know, when he talks about belittling Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, nobody is belittling Kithure Kindiki. All people say is he is Ruto's appointee. That is not belittling him. That is a fact. Because William Ruto went to the vote, got a vote with Rigathi Gachagua. So people say, and I know that is what acts Ruto and probably the Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. So people say that Rigathi Gachagua is the elected Deputy President. This one is an appointed Deputy President, which is a fact. That is not belittling him. And I think the sooner Ruto and others who share in his thoughts and feeling should just, accept that is the truth. Nobody has a problem with Kithure Kindiki. I have never, for example, attacked Kithure Kindiki anywhere. But of course, the way he ascended into this position is a way that, of course, people have to keep questioning. The role he played in the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua is something that Ruto and his ilk wants us to forget. But of course, we cannot forget about that. I'm not talking about Mbeere North. We were there. And a lot of electoral hygiene. I heard Janet say that you like the word hygiene. There was no hygiene at all. Because what happened is that actually the whole government machinery had been transferred to Mbeere. I mean, there was a lot of intimidation, a lot of lies. And of course, when somebody is on William Ruto's side, of course, lies become a culture for them. And so they lie to old people there that if they didn't vote in the government candidate, then their social, what do you call it? Malipo ya wazee. I mean,
mimi naitanga tu pesa ya wazee.
Yes. That it was
I actually don't know the formal
that it was going to be withdrawn. And remember, Mbeere is a rural constituency, and our old mothers and fathers, of course, are bought into that, and of course, they are vulnerable, and so they.
Did you hear them telling this lie that if you don't vote in the government
Of course, they would not say that in rallies, but of course they would tell small groups of people, especially when they met the old, that was going to be one of the consequences. And of course, then there were many things and items that were given from government, and they were able to sway people in a way. But even with all that having been done, they still did not win this vote. What happened? The same Ruto that you have brought here, and I would want to face him. I know he wouldn't accept to face me now because, of course, he's serious and thinks he's a very big person. But because he has faced him in the past, I would want to face him in a debate. And I would want to see him say that he did not invade Getivuri polling station with about 100 armed police officers and about 300 young men armed in crude weapons, where he threw out the opposition's agents, and he took over the station. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows whether whatever was announced from that particular polling station were the votes counted from the ballot boxes, of course, where people put in their vote. I mean, and so many other things. There was a lot of intimidation. And I can tell you, none of us, and your people must have been there, we could not be able to access the tallying center as opposition. We couldn't. There were about 1,000 young men we were actually advised, if you get to Chicago, then you are not going to leave that place alive. I mean, 1,000 young men mobilized with crude weapons and armed police officers, plainclothes officers.
So, Albertus, this is not the first time we've had these accusations against CS Ruto, against a lot of people involved in the Mbeere North by-election. But why are there no court cases?
Yeah.
Of course, we are working on it. We are working on, you have to bring together evidence and before you go to court, because of course you do not want to go to court and start just making allegations. We are collecting evidence.
Is your testimony not evidence?
No, we are saying we are collecting evidence, and of course our lawyers are doing that, and of course at the right time, then we will go to court. But some of the evidence could not be collected because sometimes where there is that kind of hostility, you may not be able to for example, you are not able to reach there, and this government, the way it operates also can compromise or intimidate witnesses. I mean, look at the way Ruto is talking there. I mean, can you face Ruto? And, can you face him? And can you, as an ordinary citizen from Mbeere, for example, can you go and witness against Ruto as a person with, because you can see even the way he's talking, saying that, you will have to see things how can you do that? So there are challenges. But then we want to encourage our people that this is not something they'll be able to do during the general election. Why? Because one, we will be having 6 elections at the same time. I mean, you cannot ballot stuff in a general election, because of course, if for example you want to, of course, stuff about 300 ballots for the president, I mean, how do you then distribute the 300 additional votes to the gubernatorial
You're saying that
candidates?
can't happen because you're saying that's something that won't happen in 2027. You're saying that you are pretty much saying under our watch we will not have that happen, but it already happened in the by-elections, which kind of brings us to this electoral hygiene that Mariam wanted to get into. As you're describing, you're telling people they have to be on guard and to make sure this doesn't happen. But what guarantees are there? By-elections happened like they did. The reports that came out, some, we're hearing from you, some we're hearing from different people, but we have what the
including
media
observers
and observers, yes. But there's no guarantee that things like that can happen again. So it comes down to what needs to be done, what kind of electoral hygiene measures need to be put in place now to ensure that we don't have a repeat of what happened in the by-elections, because it could happen again.
Yeah, you can't say you can't ballot stuff in a general election. If you can do it in a by-election, you can do it in a general
That is exactly what I was trying to explain, Janet, Mariam, that when you're doing just one election, a member of National Assembly, for example, election, once you ballot stuff, you cannot be able to, to verify it against any other election. When you are electing the president, the governor, the senator, the woman rep, the member of National Assembly, and the member of county assembly, it becomes a little difficult for you to ballot staff, because if you ballot staff for the president, and that is what I just started explaining, if you ballot, probably you want to ballot to staff about 300 votes. All of 300 ballots for the president. Remember, everybody who votes for the president must have voted for this 5 other, elections. So at the end of the day, then how do you explain that, for example, 1,300 voters voted for the president, but only 1,000 voted for the other 5? So, and everybody else will have agents. If there are 3 gubernatorial candidates, each one of them will have their candidates. How do you distribute? How do you ballot staff for candidate A for governor? How many votes for candidate A for governor? The additional votes, the marginal votes. How many for the candidate A, candidate B, and you would have to do a lot. So, what we have already, especially having after 2007 election, when Judge Kriegler came, so many reforms were done.